Then approval of the agenda. Lisa, would you like to approve the agenda?
Absolutely.
We'll like to move.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there any dissension? Oh, yeah, we need you to second it. Yep, can you second the motion to approve the agenda?
Yeah, yes, I can. I just was
Okay,
trying
okay.
to get myself unmuted.
Okay, and it looks like we have nobody from the public online. There's nobody from the public here, so we'll move on from there. Approval of the minutes. Dave, better review the minutes. I guess I've got to you, Lisa. Did you review the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, Deb, do you concur?
And I'll second. I'll second.
And there's no objection, so we'll move on. Old business, self-evaluation. Lisa, did you have a copy of that?
No, I do not.
Did you have a paper copy of the stuff?
Of the packet, I do not, I just printed the agenda.
I do remember what was in it.
Okay.
Okay,
Right up there on the
well,
screen.
my intent is that we would go through this essentially line by line and make changes, but we definitely have to have some additions to this.
You want a copy? I have the.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, so yeah, we've distributed a draft, and just to, everybody knows my intent, but my intent was not to put these words down and use my words. My intent was just to have some words that we could edit here. And so there's no pride in ownership or anything like that. This is all up for grabs to make changes with. We'll just wait for a moment for Lisa to get a copy in front of her. No?
Okay.
So the way it's organized, there's a summary of board response, and I've already seen several punctuation errors and just errors of omission in that.
Is it going?
I think he's gonna bring it in a second.
Okay, we'll just hold off on that for a moment. There were some issues that were carried over from the CEO evaluation, and these two are somewhat linked because there were suggestions for improvements in both. And so it's just a very short summary. The recommendations for improved board operations, I suggest we leave this for the very last. So after we've gone through this document, we need to fill in some improvements. And I think everybody's heard me, till they're sick of hearing me talk about how in the previous surveys of board self-evaluation, we just had a bunch of percentages of this and that and the other thing, and nothing improved. So I want to fix that this time. And I want the recommendations for improvement to be one of the most prominent parts of the document. Okay, so there we are. The changes that I'm going to suggest we make, third paragraph down, there were many comments. I think that should have been, there were many positive comments in response to open-ended questions. And then I suggest that we add at the very end of that sentence, there were many comments indicating that the board members believe that there was an overall improvement in the performance of its operation in the previous year. Anybody have any objection to making that change?
Could you repeat that, Hal?
Yes, in the third paragraph, now it ends with comments about board governance practices were generally positive. And then I suggest adding another sentence. There were many comments indicating that board members believe that overall performance of the board has improved in the last year.
I have no problem with that.
Issues carried, okay, so then now we have this, let's just look quickly at this paragraph about issues carried over from the CEO evaluation. In the separate evaluation, the hospital CEO performed several issues identified by medical staff and stakeholders may have been issues better addressed to the board. Medical staff appeared uneasy about the hospital's relationship with the city's existing orthopedic group, but some or maybe all of that tension may be the result of the board's
On that page, it's right
Bottom.
there, issues.
of the board's direction to the CEO as far as orthopedics. The issue of community engagement came up as there was a violation. For example, one stakeholder responded, stated, I regularly encounter community members who are unaware of positive efforts. So those were directed at the CEO, but I think those should be carried over into our self-evaluation. Now, before we get back to suggest improvements, let's run through the results. So if we could skip over recommendations and go down to one, board governance and leadership. Has everyone looked at these statistics and comments? Were there any comments from board members?
I have.
I'm sorry, you have commented?
I said that I've looked them over.
Oh, okay. Lisa, do you have any comments? About what we,
Not about board governance.
okay.
I would say that the scoring was what I expected for this go around. So I all the way through, I don't have any, there were no surprises to me about the specific scoring.
I would agree
And no surprises, well, no real surprises on the board comments. The only thing that, and I guess it's, the only thing that I would say is there were a couple of them that, there are several comments that really didn't have enough depth for us to pursue how we could improve and what we were doing right to elicit a 2 or 3 word comment. But I guess we can, when we decide how to follow up with this self-evaluation, we can discuss that after we've read through it and approved the final copy.
So maybe I'm not sure what you're suggesting. Are you thinking we need to make changes to the part of the document that begins with results of self-assessment questions?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's a little disappointing that a couple of the comments will be difficult to follow up on.
Yeah.
And that being said, that's something that we as a board should do when we decide what our highest priorities are and what our next steps in following up on the board self-evaluation.
Okay, then my question to the committee is, what do you think about just moving forward with all of the material that begins with results of self-assessment? Just agree that we will include that in our summary that'll go to the full board.
Lisa, do you have?
I think that we should share it.
And
Agreed.
if that's the case, then our work here today is all about the material that's going to go into recommendations for improved board operations. And if I may, I'll just start off with a suggestion. I talked about this with Joe before we started. I suggest that we recommend that the board host a lunch once a month for the Juneau Empire, Juneau Independent, KTOO, and KINY, just for an hour-long lunch. And that'd be attended by some hospital staff, the board president, and one rotating member of the board. And we just kind of leave that open-ended and allow them to come in. And the purpose of that would be to get at these questions having to do with community engagement.
Yeah, I read what that, whoever wrote that wrote, I thought it was very good, and I actually had thought about those lines when I was doing this, and then I didn't do it, because I couldn't figure out a way to tactfully put it in that Bartlett didn't even have a float in the Fourth of July parade. And I don't know who does that or who sets that up, but when I was at the parade and I saw that, my first thought was, oh, our parade, where's our float? You know, it's coming later. And I just think it's just really important for us to engage in the community that way. I mean, we do great with, you know, the holiday stuff with the foundation and things like that. And, you know, we're present at health fairs and stuff like that. But I think that there's more that we can do to engage in a way that isn't revolving around asking for additional funds or explaining services that we want to cut. And that's why I didn't put it in my evaluation. Simply because I couldn't think of a way to word it without it sounding just as negative as it sounds right now.
Do we have a consensus that we should include this idea of the monthly lunch for the press?
I'm torn about this one. I think that the press is not our only venue for engaging with the community. So if we were to have, I would maybe broaden it to maybe do, if we're going to do something monthly, let's alternate between the press and other stakeholders in the community.
Who would?
Well, I mean, certainly, certainly, one of those months, maybe we wouldn't host it, but there are plenty of opportunities to speak to the Rotary Club and the Chamber of Commerce, which is a different set of stakeholders than the press is. And there are others in the community, I'm sure, that I don't have a list in front of me, but certainly, this folks from the school district, I mean, there are a number of places where we could get the word out and enjoy a more intimate conversation, but it's different than the press. The press has a different lens than a lot of the folks that we want to reach. We want to reach the folks. We want to reach the.
Excuse me. You're done. Go ahead.
We've talked about wanting to reach the folks that are that would benefit from our hospice and home health services, and I know there's an active there's an active movement to make that happen on the hospice and home health, but they're not hearing from the board with regard to that, except for those folks that email us directly. But there are other spots in the community, and I wish I had I'd brought my tablet with me with my notes in it, so we can certainly talk about that. I can certainly provide that a little later.
Well,
But
for the purposes
I don't think that the press should be our only focus. And if anybody,
I'm sorry, it's Lisa. What about something like I don't know, like just kind of like a town hall thing, but it's not a town hall thing. It's just basically we have like a little reception, do it once a month and couple of board members are there and meet, the public comes, we talk, and rather than something that's necessarily aimed at the press, because I don't think that should be our audience, or I should say our, the customer that we want to appeal to. I think it's a good idea. Just, I think we need to talk about it, think about it.
Well, remember, these are recommendations, but they should be specific enough that
Right.
they're specific, but they should be general enough that we're not planning the whole thing out here in this meeting.
Oh, no, I understand. I just, kind of with Deb, I just don't think that the press should be who we're targeting.
Well, this is just, I don't want to be defensive here, but this is just one specific suggestion on how to better
No, I
engage with the
hear you.
community. And so we either put it in, modify it, or leave it out. And so I'm not sure I'm getting the will of the committee here. And maybe we need to talk about it a little bit to figure out really what our thoughts are. But
I guess I would, for purposes of today, that we, and those staff that are in the room, I'd like to hear what you have to say, because it's going to affect your lives as well if we take this on. But we can be vague enough to say that we have regular or monthly or period, regular, not less than 6 per year, whatever the meetings with community meetings with stakeholders, which, I mean, we can put, which could include, but make it vague enough that we work with staff and have the opportunity to figure out who that is without, as you said, doing that work today.
I believe you had a statement in there that was more general. It was to increase community engagement and didn't get to the specifics of what the action would be. And so
Right.
that gives it flexibility. I did talk to Hal about the once a month meeting, because each additional thing we add to the plate, it's got to take something off the plate at this point. It's not like we have access time within our schedules to accommodate a huge amount of meetings. So understanding what that opportunity cost would be, I think needs to be discussed.
well, it just, not to take medicine, but this is recommendations for the board. So this should not be recommendations and staff to put more burden on them. If there is going to be a recommendation here, it should be a recommendation that the board host meeting. And that's my recommendation. I mean, the board host a lunch. That would be my specific recommendation. But
I don't think that we'll be able to be totally successful without at least collaborating with staff on the content.
I'm sure that's true. So how would the committee like to proceed on this? Do we want to include it, modify it, or leave it out?
I think it should be under consideration in some form, maybe not as frequent as once a month, but just get ourselves out there in as many venues as we can, whatever that looks like, without placing an undue burden on both the staff and the board. Most of the board members, have busy lives beyond Bartlett Regional as well. So if we can come up with a happy medium, but still get ourselves out in front of our stakeholders a little more clearly.
So do you have some suggestions on how to word the recommendation?
Oh, man.
Is that how
It's nowhere. We're
it doesn't even
writing.
exist in there?
We're writing these. The recommendations appear. I mean, there's summary. There's a summary statement, then the issue carried over from CEO Byers, and then we need to start just taking a pen and writing down a recommendation.
So I have a recommendation, I guess, or it would be a comment followed by a recommendation. So one of our strategic initiatives that's under goal number 5 is to increase community engagement. And so this actually came about around the 4th of July, as commented. We did not have a float in the parade. although there were several staff that wanted to engage in it. And so one of our goals is to increase Bartlett's community engagement as well as how we're out there. So I would suggest that the board engage with senior leadership in moving that objective forward. So, and so I guess the recommendation would be to engage staff with the development of the strategic initiative number 5 in regards to community engagement. And so, I mean, it's not specific, but it would be driven through our strategic initiatives and the A3 process.
That's a good idea, I like that.
Could you give me
Yeah,
the exact wording you recommended?
Can I think about it a little bit and I can put it together as I sit down and think of the computer? I do better when I'm able to type it out
Okay.
and rehash it, but I can put something together that basically using our initiative 5 with the board engaged in that process to move those forward. We're already doing the work, and that way it's not more work on staff, it's just you guys coming into that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe it might be nice to have a board member or two on the float. I mean,
Yeah.
just something because, and I didn't mean to target that. It was just what I
No,
was.
and you brought up a great example, like we talked about that one extensively over at Summit.
Okay, just to remind everybody, so this committee's not meeting again before we forward these on to the board.
Yeah.
So if you want to empower me to make editorial suggestions, then that's fine. I'll take
I found
those.
that too.
So where are we on my recommendation? Are we just saying replace this or, and again, these are just recommendations. So I still think there's room to recommend that the board host a lunch, and if the board doesn't do it, there's, it's not.
I think that is a fine suggestion. I don't know about monthly, but I think it's a fine suggestion. I think it's a good way to, for the board itself to get more engaged with the community, because the 4th of July float is a Bartlett engagement. It's all of us. It's not just the board or just employees. So I think the lunch is fine. It's my suggestion.
Okay, and again, these aren't like the suggestion from the Juneau Police to take your studs off before, whatever. We're not gonna get a ticket if we don't do it.
No, of course not, but it's a good idea, and I don't think we should just poo-poo ideas. I mean, we have to try to even make it work, so I'm fine with it.
Okay, so after reviewing the rest of this, are there any other committee recommendations for the board?
Moving out of the section for different sections.
We're in the section now where these are recommendations for the board. So we did our survey, we looked at something was 4.5 and something was something else. And there were all these comments, does the board engage in regular assessment? Yes, apparently once a year. So now that we've reviewed all those things, we're putting it all together, and we're doing an analysis of it. We need to turn those into recommendations for improving board operations.
Well, I don't know. I think that suggestions about having an annual meeting with the board about strengthening relationships is a great one, but I don't think we have to go out of town to do it. Hospital tour is a great idea. It's just something that we could just do. And I'm going to own the statement about the meetings during the day. I'm the person that said that, because it is hard for me to meet sometimes during the day. It takes a lot of coordination. My schedule changes all the time. I don't want to not attend meetings. I was racing over here this morning, but I think that I think it's probably hard for all of us to get together at any one set time, because everybody has other obligations also. So I think doing something once a year as a training, I really like what we did at the airport. I don't remember when we did it. It was very nice. It's really all the comment I have.
Okay, so you threw several things at me there at once. Can you give me some exact word or something close to exact wording I can write down, put in?
Sure, I think we should do an annual meeting outside of the hospital board meetings. Doesn't have to be an 8-hour day or anything like that. It does have some training and, but we don't need to do it out of town. I know somebody suggested that, but out of town is probably hard for a lot of people. I know it definitely would be for me. But that's really what I want to say about
And
the bonus
it's
for functionality.
just to try to turn this into exact words, so you're suggesting you have an annual meeting outside the hospital, and then you had mentioned something about socializing too.
Well, that person then put in about strengthening personal relationships. I think that would be helpful for that. But we don't need to do it out of town. I don't know what Deb thinks about that, but also an out of town meeting is extremely expensive.
Do you have any comments, Deb?
You're right. An out of town meeting is expensive. I mean, I struggle with balancing that. The good thing about an out of town meeting, whether it's just among us or at a conference, which is even more expensive than an out of town meeting, is that it's when we meet in town, it's so easy to be distracted from the by our day-to-day. So much easier to be distracted when we're in town and make other commitments than it is if we go away. We're in an isolated place. We're not. We don't have the pull of what's going on elsewhere in town. So I don't think we're in a position to do an out of town meeting in 2026, but I think it should be back on the at least for consideration when we're looking at 2027. And Joe, I don't know if you want to weigh in on from my perspective, the fiscal uncertainty of this.
Yeah.
Right now, we have no idea what our reimbursement is going to be.
You know, and I think it's going to be a few years before we truly understand what the impacts of the one big beautiful bill are. I think we'd have to look at what we're trying to achieve with that out of town.
Right.
Going to conferences is it education, and we just have to do in town versus out of town. What can we provide? I guess that's my take on it. I know we are working on education for board members through the National Rural Health Association. And so that's something that'll be happening in 2026 as well for a couple of the board members.
Yep.
If I could just give my thoughts on this for a second. Those trips to Colorado, when I look at what I got out of them, probably the most useful thing for me was to sit and have dinner with board members I didn't know personally. And Lisa, you know what I mean. We sat next to each other at dinner, and I got to know you better and understand more of your background and motivations. And then when I saw just what the hotel bill was for me, I was absolutely stunned, because I could have had the same benefit in a restaurant in Juneau. And so I just think it's important, board members, especially as now we're going to have some new board members. I think it's important to have that opportunity. And with the Open Meetings Act, we have to find out how we can do that consistent with the Open Meetings Act. But Open Meetings Act. But for me, just a little bit of time to socialize, that can be done inexpensively, and that could be done in Juneau.
I think we should have a dinner as a board when we get new board members, because, they come in and it's like deer in the headlights. I don't know. Sometimes they know us, sometimes they don't. They might know a few of us, but not all of us. And it was absolutely, that trip to Colorado was really nice. I did get sick on that trip.
I know. Well,
and I was scared to death that I made you all deathly ill.
While we were having dinner.
So anyway.
We've got to come up with some recommendations here, but
right.
I'm happy just have an annual meeting outside of the hospital and try to strengthen personal relationships. Does anybody have any suggestions for improving that or modifying that or deleting that? Or accepting that?
I do have, I guess I have one comment to make. I know I was late to the party and is Chad in the room?
Yes.
They, it looks like none of my comments in these sections made it. Was I that late to the party that none of my suggestions made it into this into this document? I mean, I realized that I was
Make a
late.
joke to
Yes.
Yes.
Really. Sorry.
Okay,
That is a good point. We should put in there, how many responded? Do I understand this right? 4 out of 9 responded? Is it right? I'm going to add that to the summary if that's okay.
so I thought there were other late respondents besides me. Is that correct or no?
I was late for the CEO, but I was on time for this.
Chad, was I the only one that turned something in
Yeah, I can't remember off the
and
top of my
didn't
head.
make it?
Off the top of my head, I just can't remember. I was doing the CEO and the board at the same time, and there was a lot of late in both sides, so I can still go back and add those if it's the will of the chair.
Well, whatever it is we forward on to the board, we should review. If we don't have those to review, we should put those in, I would think. That's just my thought. I don't know what other people think. But to return to our specific recommendations. Okay, so we recommend a monthly lunch hosted by the board, president in well crafted, but invite KTOK and White Juneau Independent Empire. And then another one that Joe's going to get me that will craft into something with the same voice. We have an annual meeting outside the hospital and try to strengthen personal relationships among board members. Any other recommendations? Just 3 recommendations? I think as long as we have at least 3, we're good. Yeah, any other thoughts?
I had a recommendation. Well, my 2 with community engagement were fairly broad and not were basically high level goals that would need some fleshing out by the board as to how we would move forward with it. 2 of it, 2 of which we just talked about. Moving forward with the recommendation for the monthly lunch and Joe's recommendation to work with for staff and the board to work together on. I can't remember your wording, Joe. But I'm rambling and I apologize for that. I don't have any more recommendations about community engagement.
Okay, are there any recommendations from the staff? Have any staff members reviewed the self-assessment data? Any things that you would suggest to this committee that we include for our recommendations to the board on how to improve board operations?
If you're talking about all 4 sections, I do have a couple, and this falls into your comment, Hal, about getting together with other board members to get to know them, and my recommendation was that we create an annual opportunity for an informal get together for the board to socialize without an agenda and limit conversations to topics other than hospital operations. Assuming that that uh, wouldn't violate meeting act restrictions.
Okay, so
So-
you understand that I've already written down, have an annual meeting outside of the hospital and try to strengthen personal relationships among board members. That's one of our recommendations now. Or that's what I wrote down.
Yeah.
And you're
Yes,
suggesting
and
another, okay.
no,
I've got
I'm
my-
suggesting to edit it with that we socialize without an agenda and limit conversation to topics other than hospital operations. So we actually get to know each other. We can talk about, the state of healthcare economics or whatever the hell we want to, but
So basically, it's more of a gathering than a meeting.
Socialize without an agenda. I'm sorry, I'm way behind you. Can you say that again, please? Socialize without an agenda, and what comes after the word agenda?
and limit conversations to topics other than specific hospital operations.
Okay. So now the second, I've got 1A and 2. So recommendation 2 is have an annual meeting outside of the hospital and try to strengthen personal relationships among board members. Period. And socialize, I need to improve the predicate here. Socialize without an agenda, limit conversations to topics besides hospital operations. So that's now made into one compound recommendation. Is that, or were you recommending? Did I understand your intent, or were you recommending?
Yeah, that is my intent to expand on what your original recommendation is.
Okay, well, I'm happy with that. Lisa, how about you? Okay, so I'll ask again, are there any other recommendations from staff on what the board should recommend for improved operations? Okay, then I'm going to recommend that we.
Yeah, I've got one more recommendation.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. In number 4, it says, how can board committees be more effective in fulfilling their responsibilities?
Okay.
And I think we should introduce a short form committee effectiveness self-assessment. It can just be a verbal discussion, or I really don't want another tool that we're asking people about, but I think that at least once a year, each committee should do a quick self-assessment of how effective they were in the year. And which includes reviewing the committee charter to make sure that each committee is focusing on governance and alignment with strategic goals.
Okay, I'm way behind. What I have captured, at least once a year, each committee should perform a self-evaluation. Then you went on to expand that. You said that's.
Yeah. The tool can, this is an aside, you don't have to write all this down, but it can be either a verbal discussion or a written tool. I recommend a verbal discussion, and it would include reviewing each committee's charter to make sure that it focuses on governance and alignment with strategic goals. And if the committee or staff doesn't agree with any of this, speak up.
Lisa, are you happy with that as a recommendation?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we have 4 recommendations. Is there anything else? We're ready to move on to the harder task, which is the CEO's evaluation.
We're discussing board training. Oh, was that the same thing as?
Oh, yeah, well, I guess yes, we should just very briefly discuss that. It's on the agenda. And that's in there because there were some recommendations here and there about training, both the self-evaluation and the CEO's evaluation. So I'll just ask, are there anything that we should pass on to the 2026 governance committee about recommendations for training? And I have, I'll just start by saying I have nothing. Do you have any thoughts?
I don't at this time.
Okay.
Let's
just. Oh,
Sorry, under one of your suggestions to improve under financial oversight, it specifically states, someone said that they would like to see more training in healthcare finances.
and I guess I would
Yeah.
just say we've reviewed that and we're not going to translate that into a recommendation unless somebody objects to that. Yeah, do you, Lisa, any objection? Okay, then I think, did you say something?
Well, I guess that I think it should be a recommendation that we expand the board orientation to include yeah, a mini workshop on hospital and healthcare finance. Because a lot of the board members are coming cold.
Okay, I like that suggestion.
And Joe, if you guys are already doing that, having the new board members meet with staff to go over that, but are you guys doing that? With, I mean,
When
I
they come in-
participate in the,
They meet on a piece of it, so last time they met with us and they met with compliance and quality.
okay,
So we're gonna expand upon it and just tweak that training.
So then what I would like, if we're done with this, I would like a motion to approve this subject to editorial revision and forward this on to the full board.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it, but I'd like to see it before it goes in the packet one last time, just to check for typos or all the
Yeah.
things.
Okay, that sounds great. And just for clarity, we've got a meeting tomorrow. There's no way it's going to be done then. So we'll have to ask, maybe I could ask Lisa to present that on December because the board meeting was scheduled. I previously planned to be out of town.
Okay, I'll be happy to do that.
Okay, and so then, Suzette, will that be any problem routing this to the board committee, to the governance committee for approval before we finalize it? Okay, all right, then I think we're ready for a motion to move into executive session.
I would like to make a motion to move into executive session so that we can discuss subjects that may prejudice the reputation, character of the person, specifically the CEO evaluation. Provided the CEO.
I'll second.
Okay, and then
I'm gonna stop.
committee meeting.
And that's Tuesday.
Yeah, it's when our board meeting would have been.
Okay, I can do that. I just can't do the.
I
20th.
cannot.
Okay.
I will be at my oldest granddaughter's wedding.
Oh.
That's important. What
So,
would you suggest, Evan?
Um, uh, and I'll be flying on the 26th in the evening. I'll be leaving and flying on the evening of the 26th. So I've got the 24th or the 28th or
I missed the board meeting in December.
In December, it is.
It's early. We got to.
Yeah. So I was-
it's the 16th, isn't it? Yeah. Or no, when is it?
The Tuesday, December 16th is the next board
Yeah,
meeting.
that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
What about one evening sometime in the first week of December? Does that get us enough time?
I'm
Any night but
unavailable-
Wednesday.
I'm unavailable December 1st. December
And I'm
2nd.
unavailable on the 3rd, the evening of the 3rd.
Tuesday, December 2nd, does that work?
We can do that.
It should be fine with me.
What, when you say evening, is it a 5 o'clock meeting or
We'll
5:30?
we'll have to determine that.
3?
We'll have to determine that. But let's get the date for
I have an all-day meeting on the 2nd, but I should be done by 4.
Yeah, did we decide the 2nd will work for you?
The 2nd will work for me.
Okay, so then the next question is what time? Has to be after 4. What about staff? This is creating kind of a burden for you.
I can be here.
I can always drive if I need to. I mean, if we're just gonna go into executive session and come out,
Okay, yeah.
then that's an easy one. If there's no other agenda topics.
Yeah, and 4 o'clock should be fine for me if you want to do it at 4, or 4:30.
I think we just heard from Lisa that that doesn't work for you, right?
What time again? 4. 4, I should be done with my all-day meeting, but 4 is right at the end of it. So,
Yeah, I was suggesting like 4:30.
4:30 is probably better.
And does that work, staff?
Yes, Chad is taking one for the staff and he will drive as long as there's no other agenda item. Session.
Oh, drive. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Drive the machine.
Drive to the desktop, yeah.
I got it.
Sorry, not like. So we're gonna calendar December 2nd at 4:30 p.m.
Yeah, I have an all-day Zoom meeting, so I'll be ready to engage with that.
Somehow, my calendar's all screwed up. Somehow,
And I'll be here?
That'll be here. yeah.
Okay, all right. I shall be here.
I'm about to invite a whole bunch of people to some.
I'll get it calendar.
But I wanted to, I've got 2 calendars. I've got my regular personal calendar. I want to be sure it's there. And how do I get?
So we've set the date. Can we adjourn the meeting so I can go back to the NICU and see my
I'm
grandson?
sorry, yeah, if I'm halting here, it's because I'm trying to make sure I've got it in the calendar.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, do we need to make a comment or anything stating that we are?
Yes, we do.
We didn't get
Yes.
this completed?
Yes, thank you. We do need to do that. Would somebody like to offer that? We don't need it as a motion, but we need a comment. Plus, the last thing on our agenda is committee comments and questions, so maybe somebody could make that as a comment. Lisa?
Just make a comment that we are setting another meeting.
We came out of executive session.
Came out of executive session. We did not complete all of our work. We are returning on December 2nd at 4:30 to complete our work. That sound good?
Yep, sounds good to me.
All right.
Do you have any final comments?
Nope.
I don't.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys. My
Okay.
paperwork is right there.
Jen,
Thank
will
you,
tell-
guys.
Will you tell Joe what happened too, so he knows?
And he knows that we're not